in this room, we had a bacon planning meeting to talk about the future of bacon. We were divided into 4 tables, and there was a different topic for each table for that group to brainstorm about what we wanted to see happen in the future of bacon. So I was at that corner over there, and the group that I was in happened to be the largest group in the room. I think about half the people in the room were at that table. And we started out talking popcorn. You know what I mean by talking popcorn? There's a voice, it's how that was made. One voice pops up here, and another voice pops up here, another voice, then 3 or 4 pop up at once, and then there's silence, and then another one. So after a couple people talked popcorn, I wasn't facilitating the group, I was a member of the group, which I'll talk about in a moment. I'll refer to again. But I suggested that we do it as a round. I had to suggest it a couple of times before the suggestion took. And then we did a round, everybody had a turn, and then again, it was back to popcorn because people wanted to talk about the juicy ideas that they had heard. So again, I suggested that we do a second round. And again, I had to suggest it a couple of times before it took. But what happened at the end was that everybody had at least one turn, most people twice, because in a round you have the option to pass, and some people passed if their ideas had already been said. We had a ton of new ideas. We were relaxed and energized at the same time and had all these creative ideas, and it was great. So afterwards, several of us were standing around talking about what had happened, and a couple of people were asking me questions about rounds, and somebody, I don't even remember who it was, who said, that would be a good topic for a life hack. So that's what led to this presentation. So let me say at the outset, 10 minutes is really short. If you've ever done a life hack, you know that. I have a one-page PDF that I will be putting on the website, on the Bacon website, with a list of resources, including 3 articles that I have written about rounds and about meetings. So you can go there, and those articles have almost everything I'm talking about in this presentation are in one or more of those articles with references included. And if you want it before that, just you can send me an email. My email address is there, Sheella@MiersonConsulting.com. You just have to spell Sheella and Mierson correctly. Good luck with that one.
Yeah.
or send it through LinkedIn. Okay. So in a round, every participant gives input in turn with no group dialogue. You can pass if you want, if your ideas have already been said. And in fact, you're doing the group a favor if you pass, because we don't have to, it saves time if the ideas have already been out there. But there's no interruption and there's no crosstalk. So why do that? I think in meetings, think about 2 aspects of meetings. One is, does everybody get a chance to talk? And the other is anybody listening? So those are the 2 things that I'm always weighing. In most I'm sure we've all been to plenty of meetings where a few people talk a lot, and some people never say boo. And we're losing a lot of ideas that way. Oftentimes the quiet people, some of us talk readily in groups. I happen to be one of them. Some of us talk less readily. Oftentimes the quiet people have the best ideas because they've been sitting, paying attention and thinking. And we want to hear those ideas. So that's one thing. Everybody gets a chance to talk. But the other question is, who's listening? So if I'm sitting in a meeting where people are talking at once, maybe arguing with each other, I'm busy thinking. When I'm listening to that person, I may be listening. If it's something that we have disagreement about, I may be listening just to think about, what am I going to say to prove myself right and prove them wrong, or what am I going to say next? I'm also looking at the group thinking, okay, when am I going to get a chance to talk? Am I going to get a chance to talk? How should I know that I tend to talk readily in groups, sometimes too much, and so I'm constantly monitoring myself in the group, like, When should I try and get the facilitator's attention? Should I sit back and wait for other people to talk first before I talk, or should I lead off the discussion? That's taking a lot of my attention, and I'm less able to really listen to the person. When I didn't even know I had advanced it. Okay. When we're really able to listen to the person, that we're giving them attention, and that attention is generative, and people think more clearly with attention. So we get much better ideas. This is a quote that I love. This is a quote from a book that I love by Nancy Klein, and I'll give this in the list of references. A book, Time to Think, Listening to Ignite the Human Mind. Everything we do depends for its quality on the thinking we do first. Our thinking depends on the quality of our attention for each other. So we get much better, much more creative ideas and more ideas, and we're actually paying attention to each other. So who benefits from this? The surprise, I expected, I expected that people who talk less readily in groups would benefit. The big surprise to me when I started using rounds regularly was how much I benefit, because it reins in my tendency to talk too much. And I don't have to be monitoring that. It's taken care of. And I can sit back and relax and really listen to other people, rather than thinking about what I'm going to do next. And I've talked to other people who talk readily in groups who report the same thing. Okay, so when to use it? There's lots of chances to use it. I'm focused here on some kind of organizational meeting, but it could also be in a family, which is the type of organization. I know families who use rounds to plan meal menus, to plan family vacations, all sorts of things. So the first thing is a check-in at the beginning. That's a simple thing to do. The easiest way is 1 or 2 sentences about how you're doing coming into this meeting. It gets us connected, and we learn information about each other that may be relevant to the meeting. And then a checkout at the end. And you can vary the check-in questions and vary the checkout questions. The most common checkout question that I like to use is, what went well about this meeting? What would we like to improve for the next meeting? It keeps us connected again at the end and helps us keep improving in our meetings. And then you can use it for lots of different types of agenda items in between. The first one listed there is to generate ideas about a challenging topic. That's what we were doing at the topic tables last time. Okay, so why do rounds work so well? If I'm interrupted when I'm talking, my body perceives that as a threat. And I go into my safety brain. Safety brain is designed, it's not just the brain, it's also the entire nervous and hormonal systems. It's all integrated together. My safety brain is designed to keep me safe in the face of threats. It's not where I do my most creative thinking from. The connected brain, on the other hand, is the source of joy, of creativity, of love, and of and good collaborations and connections. And using a round establishes more psychological safety and makes it more likely that we are going to be operating from our connected brains instead of safety brain. There's a lot of neuroscience that documents this, and I'm only going to mention, I go into it a little bit, and the first of my articles is a blog, and I go into this there with references. You can view being listened to as a form of appreciation, and it turns out that we think better in the presence of appreciation than we do in the presence of criticism.
Yes, we do.
And that there are actually neuroimaging studies that show that blood flow to the brain, to very specific areas of the brain, increases in the presence of appreciation. Isn't that amazing?
It is.
In addition, appreciation moves through the heart to stimulate the brain to work better. That's studies from the Heart Math Institute. And then there's a whole body of work about collective intelligence, which is how smart a group is. And there's specific measures of it. And the more equality there is in conversation turn-taking, the higher a group's intelligence. And rounds increase the quality of turn taking. So on all those accounts, rounds are really useful. I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so if the payoff of using rounds is enormous. We get everybody's ideas, and I'm thinking, I'm thinking of, so part of my business, I facilitate meetings, I teach facilitation skills, and I coach groups in how to have more effective meetings. How much time do I have left?
If you could expedite it.
Okay.
Out of time.
Not to interrupt.
Okay. Thought if I talk faster,
You proved that this is a great topic to go deeper in, so
Yes.
I can see it create. We talked about maybe making it creating connections. I think we have our answer now.
Okay.
Anyway.
So I think of one group that I coached. It was it was a team, and it happened to be a nonprofit. And there was an administrative assistant in that particular team that I was coaching who was African American. Both the team and the organization as a whole were quite diverse racially, so that's okay. But she spoke, she was one of the people who spoke up not so readily in the group. And whenever she did, her ideas would completely shift the whole discussion, because she had such good ideas. People wanted them, but she didn't. She was pretty quiet in the group. After a few months, it didn't happen overnight, but after a few months of my coaching this group, the group was getting a whole lot more done, and she was speaking up regularly, including sometimes volunteering to initiate a round where everybody was like, whoa, the first time that happened. Her boss happened to be a white woman who was like me, knew that she spoke too much in groups, and the executive director also loved it because it kept her from doing that. You'll have to read one of my articles for tips for how to do them. But I want to end with a quote. This is one of my favorite quotes from John Fox. When someone deeply listens to you, your bare feet are on the earth, and a beloved land that seemed distant is now at home within you. So
Wow.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
So I wish you enjoyable, relaxed, creative, and productive meetings.
And many happy
Thank
rounds.
you.